Well, would you look at that? More countries are just hopping on the bandwagon. The trend set by the United States at banning travel, or at least mitigating travel from China. What are we in? The early stages of 2023 over here, and these seem to be old policies. Once derided as being xenophobic. Is that the proper term? Well, let me just check in here for a second. But Biden called Trump's travel restrictions xenophobic. Let's just go ahead and cast our minds back to early 2020. Okay, let's see if we can learn from the past, shall we? Biden's campaign. National Press Secretary T.J. Ducklo had a disastrous interview with Fox News and Bret Baier on Thursday, in which Ducklo appeared to be as eminently unprepared as your typical Trump, a White House surrogate. Thanks, National Review. You're a very, very diligent outlet. That's why I rarely fucking use you. After Bret Baier played clips of two experts that Biden had relied upon downplaying the coronavirus in late January, Ducklo claimed that Vice President had was not against a travel ban placed on China by President Trump on January 31st. Bret Baier pressed Ducklo on the point, repeatedly asking if Biden was for the travel restriction. Ducklo refused to answer directly, instead saying that Biden was not against them, and offered to send Baier fact checks. PolitiFact says that Biden had previously accused Trump of fostering hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. Biden did not explicitly tie xenophobia to travel restrictions. Trump's allegations that Biden had called the Chinese travel ban xenophobic was mostly false. Factcheck.org ignored Biden's February 1st tweet entirely, simply asserting that Biden did not take the position of the initial restrictions and pointing to his support of such measures in April. Biden tweeted, "We are in the midst of a crisis with the coronavirus. We need not lead the way with science." Oh, we need to lead the way with science. I'll read that correctly. Not Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. Funny, how would you describe this 3 years into this shit? Australia and Canada become the latest countries. Oh, we know. Fearful tactics of Australia and Canada. Well, I can speak as somebody who lives in Canada. Oh, if there's an opportunity to oppress people, you betcha Canada's going to hop on the bandwagon on that one. And if you have a problem with it and you're feeling a little ill about it, we'll just offer you death as a recourse. Became the latest countries to impose mandatory COVID testing on Chinese travelers in the new year amid spiraling infections. Spiraling downwards, I'd imagine. Downwards towards absolute insanity. Australia and Canada have joined a growing list of countries to impose COVID tests on Chinese travelers as countries battled nationwide outbreak after abruptly abandoning stringent lockdown restrictions. It's funny, I wonder if that has anything to do with the rampant rioting that was happening in China against the COVID policies that are down there. Maybe Chairman Xi hopped on the phone to a couple of different countries and said, yeah, you need to make it difficult for anybody to leave the country. I'm just saying, we won't provide them any tests, but if you want to drop a couple of restrictions on them, that'd be much obliged. Australian health authorities said on Sunday that from January 5th, all air passengers from mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau will need to show a negative COVID test taken within 2 days of their departure. How long before masks start to drop? I'm wondering. But it's funny, okay, if this is such a problem, okay, so Sunday was the 1st, okay, and it's not required until the 5th. Is the virus not dangerous now? It's going to be dangerous in a couple of days. Don't worry about it. Canadian authorities announced in a statement on Saturday, New Year's Eve, that similar measures would also come into effect on January 5th because Canada can't come up with their own fucking policies first without adopting anybody else's. Very, very good. We're leading the way in something, I guess. Australia and Canada follow other countries, including the United States, UK, India, Japan, and several European nations in imposing tougher COVID measures on Chinese travelers amid concerns over a lack of data on infections in China and fears of the possibility that new variants may spread. Wow, 3 years into this, and now all of a sudden, because you have your friends in charge and none of this is xenophobic or racist? Oh, you fucking love to see it. China, for the most part of the pandemic, adopted a zero-COVID strategy, which imposed harsh restrictions aimed at stamping out the virus, abruptly eased those measures in December. I wonder why. Almost like at the end of November, they were overwhelmed by the amount of protesters that were going down. China vows to crack down as protesters clash with riot cops in hazmat suits. This came out November 30th, right at the end. But then, like it stated right there, oh yeah, right at the beginning of December, though, they just, they had to abruptly ease those measures. I wonder why. It's almost like China's this paper tiger that people just float out every once in a while. Yo, China's a big threat, though. Oh my God. And I've said it multiple times over, okay? Number of sanctions in regards to Ukraine-Russia conflict that's going on right now. If you continue to push Russia into the arms of China, and then if India decides that, instead of playing like fourth or fifth wheel to the rest of the developed world, if we just kind of create this triangle, considering how big of a workforce we have at the ready there, China's got all the money and Russia's got all the resources and land, we could really, really fuck up the rest of the world and create this little, quasi superpower over here in the East. Because on their own, India's probably got the strongest claim. If given enough time, if given a big enough timeline, they could become the next superpower. Even though you hear a bunch of rumblings, I think it's Nigeria. It's weird, man. It's weird. Their birth rate, and what did they end up finding? A whole bunch of lithium down there. Like that's the next one about to pop off. There's a couple of different nations that are on the, long enough time scale, they could be threatening to be superpowers, but given how inept everybody else at the top is right now, like the United States has the easiest path to just trying to recorrect their failings, and China, I've been also talking about this for quite a long time, they've got an old population and their infrastructure is fucking shit, okay? You take a look at what their population is projected out to be in a couple of years' time, they're going to be sinking below 1 billion people. China doesn't want to lose its foothold in being the second biggest dog on the block. They have lofty aspirations of being the top dog, okay? They want to be the world's reserved currency. They want to be setting the tone for the rest of the world. They want to be out there to just go ahead and wave that red and yellow banner saying that communism is the way. But to steal a hack line from way back in the cut, facts don't care about your feelings, bro. You do not have the population. You do not have the workforce. You don't have the fucking infrastructure to pull that shit off. You've been able to cast a spell and spin a fucking mirage for a long old time, but guess what? That check's coming due, and it's not looking very good for you. Case in point, you had a bunch of hungry, starving folks that were cooped up in their fucking house for a minute, take to the streets, and you needed a whole bunch of hazmat suits to go out there and properly combat everybody. Bruh, it's not looking good for you. Communist Party leaders gave the ominous warning without directly mentioning the countrywide rallies. They were riots, bro. They were fighting the fuck back, and everybody's like, I don't know what to do. We have to get out of here. Run! The largest show of dissent in the 33 years since the protests in Tiananmen Square ended in horror and bloodshed. These ones didn't, though. The fucking rioters ended up winning, at least on a policy front. However, in a statement Tuesday, the party's top body in charge of law enforcement agencies stated its priority is maintaining effective measures and resolutely safeguard national security. We must resolutely crack down on the infiltration and sabotage activity by hostile forces in accordance with the law. Resolutely crack down, it's getting old, on illegal and criminal acts. Illegal and criminal acts, well, anything against the government, that would be illegal and criminal, right? That disrupt social order. We just want to lock you in your house, and we're just trying to achieve the zero COVID policy, but people are wanting to eat and move around, and we can't have that. So social order would require people, dying, but our population doesn't want to fucking comply. Who could have thought that? And effectively maintain overall social stability. The Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission said, see, all of these faceless, nameless organizations. But while all this stuff was raging, nobody was talking about it, okay? The Twitter files were also coming out at that time, and mass media wasn't talking about that. What were they talking about? Trump January 6th hearings. Now you got all these policies after all of these protesters that were taken to the streets, okay, beating back, the tanks, the fuckers in the white jumpsuits. Didn't want to talk about that. They ended up being effective. And now you're punishing those folks abroad, and nobody at all whatsoever is calling your policies xenophobic and racist. Come on, man. It's been 3 long years. 3 long years. It's about time to know when you're got and just try to slink away into darkness. But, hey man, there's some people out there, that aren't going to let you forget. But knowing what we know and definitely how these policies tend to originate in China, and then we get some sort of bastardized version the world around. I thought we were done with this stuff, but we'll see how it goes here in the next couple of months. But with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.